Welcome to the Fun and Exciting. We're on.
Awesome, thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the December 5th, 2012 Town Council Business Meeting. We'll start, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. We will open with a public forum on non-agenda items only. Ms. Cox.
Hi, everyone. Roseanne Cox, Wadley Falls Road, Newmarket. I checked the agenda. It's not on for tonight, but I imagine you gentlemen will be getting from the planning board that zoning change to B1 to M2. And I don't know if any of you have been following it, or I have a few questions about it. I'd really like to know who initiated it and why. And what they'll be doing is changing drastically the densities. The B1 going to M2 was all business. It will all be residential, multifamily. And for a town in New Hampshire the size of Newmarket, the norm is about 15% residential, 15% multifamily. We have over 50% multifamily in Newmarket now. So the restrictions on architectural review, and you're talking both ends of Newmarket, and heaven knows what we'll get. So I just want you to really, when you get it, really review it. And I don't think it's a responsible ordinance to add to such a high number of multifamily in Newmarket as it is now. So I'm just asking for you to really review it. And I'll be back tonight. It's here.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Obviously, that's still on the planning board's docket right now, so if anyone at
Well,
home...
I thought they were going to send it up.
Have they sent it to
you.
us yet already? We haven't seen it yet, so...
Okay.
Okay.
Was that this week, Roseanne, that meeting?
Yes.
It was yesterday, right? Or no,
No, 2 weeks ago.
weeks ago? Oh, yeah, yesterday.
Okay, Ned Porterata, 177 Exeter Road, Newmarket, lifelong resident of Newmarket. Haven't been coming in lately because one of my oldest son was ill. And I'll be missing for 6 or 8 weeks. I'm going for a knee replacement. That's the end of that. What I've been reading a lot and listening a lot to you people here is different things that kind of scare me a little bit, especially the school. And I got a lot of paperwork that I've always kept track of. I got salaries, I got the union contracts, I read everything and everything through. I'd like to ask Mr. Fournier a question. Did you read the forensic audit that we had taken in Newmarket?
I'm not sure which one. Well, I mean, I've read many audits that the town's had.
Oh,
but-
about 5 years
5
ago,
years
wasn't
ago.
it now?
It was a forensic
5?
audit.
I did.
Have you read it?
Yeah, I have.
And there's a lot of stuff in there that was really, must have surprised you. Especially the bonus stuff and everything else, whereas bonuses were given with nothing taken out of that bonus at all. And then the finance man said we shouldn't go any further into the years about it. Well, anyway, case closed. I just thought you'd read it because those are scary things. I know that you people don't have much to do with the school. In my opinion, that's the wrong kind of a council. I'd like to see this council get more involved with the school because they're going in so many directions that scares me and scares a lot of people in town, whether this is true or not true. I remember one time, and I'm going to talk about the school. I know, I thought you were going to shut me off, but look, I'm going to do this finally because I was shut off at the deliberating session when we brought this up. Brian Hatch wouldn't let me talk. And I brought that up about them bonuses that were given out.
Well, also,
And
at this deliberative session...
my rights were violated.
Mr. Porter, I'll give you 5 minutes to talk about the school right now. Go ahead.
Okay,
Lifelong resident.
but there is another salary. I mean, they showed you the salary they had. Oh, I don't know what I did with it. But anyway, there's another salary which gives all the bonuses. I don't know why we talk bonuses, but in other words, the 2010-11 contract, we was so much they gave, we voted on, and the 2011-12 contract was $200-something thousand increase in pay and benefit. And meanwhile, there was $236,000 given extra on those bonuses, anywhere from $6,000. And I did talk to Mr. Hayes about it. I said, don't you, it's all retroactive, or it was supposed to be, but it wasn't written so. I wanted, where did the money come from? Because the way he wrote it down here when I talked to him, this is the contract. And he told me, well, go back to, yeah, you go back to 2007, 2008. He said, we gave him $1,500, 2009, $1,500, 2010, $1,500, 2011, $500, 2012, $1,000. And so some teachers got $6,000. Plus, their increase in pay from that contract also. And all I want to know is where did that money come from, $236,000 that gave these extra money out? I mean, I thought it had to come before the voters.
Again, Mr. Porterata, I appreciate
Yeah, but
that
you represent the town and
we absolutely
this and that and
represent the town,
everything
but we
else.
have absolutely no statutory authority over the school, or the school district. That's the school board, and I appreciate your concerns. I absolutely do. I don't want you to think that I'm trying to poo-poo you off, but we actually have no control or say over any of that.
I know that comes every year to me, but I'm not saying I'm against this, whether they want to build a school and all that. Has nothing to do with me at all. That's something what they're doing. But I'm talking about when you give raises. The teachers always say they're the lowest around. They're not the lowest around because I get the total. Some are making 68, 74. Murphy, teacher retired, what, $74,000 plus benefits? She got another job.
So
I'm saying things are wrong.
I
all
understand,
over.
Mr. Prado, what you're saying. I highly encourage you, two things. One, there's a school board meeting tomorrow night in this exact place. And
It's going to do no good to go there.
but they are the venue for this conversation more than we are. I appreciate what you're saying, but right now we have absolutely no statutory authority to get involved in a conversation around
But
this.
if I had my way, I think we should do an audit of the school, because we did it at the town, and I'd just like to know where the money, all the money they have is, because they're getting rent from a rental property, and we gave them some money, but we're not getting nothing from the rent from Carpenter. They're getting it all.
I appreciate your concerns, Mr. Parada, and
All
again,
these little things are not right.
I absolutely understand where you're coming from, and I really encourage you, well, two things, too. One, to go to the school board meeting tomorrow night. Two, the deliberative session's going to be the same day this year.
I got to get ready for an operation. I'm just barely made it there to get my stuff together, because I'm saying I just want to come up here and have this saved so I can rest in peace if something happens.
Well,
No, I'm just saying, you people got to do something. I don't care.
again, we have absolutely no statutory authority over the school.
We don't even know where they put all their money sometimes.
Understand what you're saying, Mr. Porter. I do. I really do. But we do not have any statutory authority over the school.
Well, I get a lot more about the town, but I ain't gonna say it today, because I'll wait till the rest here, because now, we had a tax reduction. And now, was it due to the $486,000 in the unreserved fund balance?
So the only thing we can use to reduce the tax rate or to buy the tax rate down
Well, I'm talking about that $486,000.
comes from the unreserved fund balance, yes.
So that won't be around next year.
Right, which is why we had a fairly robust debate as to how much to pull out to reserve, whether we needed to save some for next year or use it all this year. And I think we cut that in the middle so that we're able to buy it down this year as well as reserve some for buying down next year.
Well, I won't touch more, just a little bit more, because when I heard that the school is a dump, I think that's, and for that public employee in saying that, I think that's not characteristic, because may I get a call from somebody, what's going on? You read the paper and it's a dump, Newmarket School. From that school, we used to get, in World War II, we got some good VA and armed forces people that went in the war and all kind of battles, and they call that a dump. It's a disgrace to the school.
I appreciate where you're
He
coming
ought to
from.
be admitted about that.
And I know the town administrator is dealing with that, and that's really a personnel matter, exactly how that's dealt with, but I know the town administrator is.
That don't make sense saying something like that. Okay, whatever.
Mr. Perot, I hope your knee replacement goes well. Vice Chair, did you have something else?
Ms. Poirier, I was gonna wish you well with your knee also, and there's several of us that sat here and agree with you wholeheartedly that we may need a different form of government in this town. I've said it many times, unfortunately, but I think we need a different form of government that controls the school and the town. I think the town really needs to take a hard look at that going forward, and I appreciate your concern, and good luck on your knee.
Mr. Allen.
I picked a hot subject tonight. Bert Allen, 56 Smith Garrison Road. One, you can't audit the school because it's a corporation, like you're a corporation. Problem is they have no competition. The only way to take that school apart and give the council power is under the old trust acts federally, okay? But there's other people who would like to, there's companies coming into New Hampshire, trying to come into New Hampshire to build privatized schools. Half the price. You hold the purse strings, but they've got you kind of in custody because you've got no place to go, so going to Oyster River cuts their contract by shifting them over to there.
Mr. Allen, I'm going to say to you what I said to Mr. Porterata. Please try to refrain from having, if you want to talk about form of government, you want to talk about something that the council actually can get involved in, I appreciate, absolutely, and I appreciate your concerns with the school, but again, there's a school board meeting at 7 o'clock tomorrow. If you want to talk specifically about the school, I encourage you to go to the school board meeting. I'm not trying to cut you off. I just want to make sure that we're addressing things that the council
Yeah,
actually has.
we'll address that. Just brings me up to point 3. Town administration, you sit as a chair. Your taxpayers are basically the shareholders, even the ones that are out of town that don't vote, that pay the taxes. As you know, that's been progressing across the United States. There have been certain towns who haven't had enough cash to slosh with, have been dragged into federal court with what's called stacking of slap lawsuits in federal court. Costs you about $50,000 a lawsuit, stacked 75 at a time in 1 week. You got a lot of money you got to lay out there. It makes councils in your position understand you're a corporation looking out for the taxpayers. This is a corporation that's got their hands right around your neck that won't answer to you. You come under a separate corporation of charter. It's called Chapter 9 in the federal code. When the court takes that decision, or lawsuits have been filed in multiples of 5, you're forced into court receivership. You people are the only ones who stay in power as counsel for the court. School systems are done a lot differently. It is time for change. Nobody has looked at running that school for 24 hours a day over there. Yes, it's a dump, as he has said. But it's not your responsibility to put money into it. They're a corporation. They get money from all their districts that come into their corporation. Okay, they're supposed to allocate their assets onto that property. So all you can do is either force them in federal court with their money to do it, but they're going to back bill you for it, or take the students somewhere else, like Barrington does, sends them out to everybody else.
I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Allen. Again, we do
That's
not have
your
authority
power.
over the school. We do not have authority over the school.
You have authority to where the children may go to school. You
We
also
do not. That is a school board. And the taxpayers in the town via the school board, the elected representatives of the school district, SAU 31. We are two entirely different, even though we are one community, and I understand and empathize and actually sympathize with the concept that we are a single community. We are currently divided into 2 organizations, SAU 31 and the town of Newmarket. So we have absolutely, via the charter, 0 authority over the school. I'm not saying it's right, I'm saying it's what it is.
That's when a student is hurt and a court action is filed. That's why it's filed in federal court, and liability goes away from the town, and you can only bring up the lawsuits in the school districts who has the insurance policy, the liability, and their assets. Assets are split. When you give them a $50 million school, they can leverage that at $125 million for loans against it. So it's not really town. It's not fair to say that that's town property, because it's not town property. They're also charging you a fee back every time we use it, whether it is for voting or what have you. It's all figured into the plan.
It
You
is
have no
school
control over the busing, which you have coast buses that run through there. If they had split sessions like they do in Europe, at half the price and wages that are higher than our teachers in Germany, number 3 school system. We're 29 in the United States, or we'll go
Again, Mr. Allen, if you want to talk about the structure of the school day, the school board is the
Let's start,
appropriate
okay,
venue.
we'll switch gears. You got tomorrow night, you've got a coalition of towns coming up about the nitrate problem in the bay. And I drew to an article that was written on Wednesday from the Fosters about college students peeing on the grass that was upping the nitrogen. I thought, oh, how cute. And I was reading all the tests they were performing. The bay has changed in the last 100 years. If you look at our old pictures, which are in the Historical Society, which is actually, if we had a place for people to look and see how the town has changed, you had rolling fields down to the bay. You didn't have a tree right on the water dropping its pine needles or its leaves into the water. Those goes down, and that's why your oysters are dying off, because they degrade, causing nitrogen. There's also another problem that is very hush-hush around it, and I'm going to say it, but hey, this shelf here, now that they've got into deep sound drilling, okay, for natural gas, that shelf, between Portsmouth up through Great Bay, you've got a fault line. You got one of the biggest supplies of natural gas about a mile deep there. That particular stuff, when it comes up through the water, through the bay, through the cracks, okay, makes the water buoyant. In other words, if you're in the bayou and you were in a flat bottom boat and you had 12 inches of clearance and suddenly you had a gas release, you'd only have one. You lost buoyancy. You're sinking. Well, when you put natural gas into the water, you have a release. Natural gas, when it converts to the molecules of water, goes and turns directly into this nitrogen that they're testing for. If you noticed, every time that we test, they're testing after flows of water runoff, rains, stuff like that. That turns the leaves over, new nitrogen coming up that's been pressed down, and you're lifting the cracks that were out there where those oyster beds were, which have died off because filter-type clams and oysters can't breathe, can't take in pine needles, can't suck pine needles, and they suffocate. I mean, nobody is saying that. Nobody's looking out for the town's interest. Nobody's coming out publicly and saying that we're sitting on one of the biggest gas reserves. Yeah, they won't. Nobody needs to say that. Maybe even oil reserves just off the Isle of Shoals. That's causing us problem. They rather have EPA, wow, don't let them get a hold of that information. They'll stop our $1 billion we're going to pump in the economy and make them pay for it. Start using that data against them. You will find the gas companies, there's certain gas companies that will give you and have connections right here in the local area, willing to talk to you on the side and give you the information you need to go in front of these people. Clobber the hell out of them.
Okay, Mr. Allen.
Because they're lying. Okay?
Thank you. Yeah, if you could just wrap it up, Mr. Allen, because we have limited time. We have a long public comment session for a bunch of agendas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
One short question. Isn't there anything in the charter that said that we can change our council into in a position that they could be involved with the school?
You would have to have a charter commission that changed our charter.
Change the charter, or
You
it's
have to
not
edit-
like saying you can get 400 votes and put in an article and,
It could not be a
Wa-
warrant
warrant
article. Well,
form?
a warrant article to have a charter commission that could change the charter, which is getting us actually into, that's on the
Public hearing,
agenda.
it's on the
no, we're
Yeah.
not a small place no more. We're a small town as far as area, miles in that, but we get plenty of people in this town.
I agree, Mr. Porter.
And I'm just saying that it's got to be so that you people have more power on this, because this guy scares me.
Well, we actually have a conversation about having a resolution to have a charter commission.
Tonight.
And I highly encourage you to, when they have a charter commission, to bring your point of view forth to the charter commission.
Well, the only thing I want is somebody got to stop these rumors all the time flying out there on this school. That's all a lot of it is.
Right.
It reminds me of World War II when we had Tokyo Rose and Actress Sally and so forth trying to make us stop fighting, me and doing this and that. And that's all we're hearing from that. That's every time I pick up the paper, it's something. Spoils my whole night.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Any other public comment?
Yes, good evening. Bill Archer, 155 Exeter Row. And I want to talk about something that you do have authority with, and that is the urgent matter of dealing with the wastewater treatment plant. And I'll try to be brief, but we need to move forward. There, as Sean has presented in his presentation, I think 3 weeks ago, there is a considerable amount of grant money on the table that we could be eligible for if we can get our act together before now in March to get this on the warrant article. And that money is not going to be available long. It was $250,000, I think, of grant money in the state revolving fund. If we can get the rural development fund, it was also potentially $500,000 more grant funds. We need to move forward. We need to get going. We've got a lot of work to do between now and March. We need to take this out of the legal arena so we can talk about it. We need to educate the residents. So we need to move on. Now that we have a final permit, there is no more legal options that we're going to be able to use to go back and deal with this. So we need to get going on and take it out of the legal realm. And I think Sean presented it well 3 weeks ago, in that there are several options, you know, whether we go right to 3 or whether we go to 8 milligrams per liter and then work on the next step. I think that's the right way to go. We work to 8 milligrams per liter, and we start funding it now. We start doing the level funding. We start building it into the rate this year so that we don't get shocked with a huge increase later. And one other aspect of that Sean didn't spend much time on in his presentation was the permit has provisions for non-point source control. And we're going to have to deal with that. And I think the more aggressive we can get and the earlier we start to plan for that, the better off we're going to be. And it's not going to be just the ratepayers that are on the system, because now other people that are on septic systems are now included in this permit. So if we can deal with it and get a plan to deal with 8 milligrams per liter, and we may potentially be able to, if we can optimize the plant and get down to 5 milligrams per liter, then it's a small difference to get down to that 3 milligrams per liter. Maybe we can make up that difference in non-point source. We'd be better off spending $2 or $3 million replacing 100 septic systems that denitrify than spending $4 million plus the O&M to get down to 3 milligrams per liter. So I urge you to move forward. You know, if we need to get a committee going and get talking, I anticipate we're going to have to talk about this probably just every town council meeting between now and March. So thanks for your time. I'm also concerned with what Rosie brought up, and I wasn't aware that was coming, but that's another matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 1 second, Mr. Chairman. Someone who hasn't talked first yet.
I need 60 seconds on that non-point source.
All right.
Joan Diorio, 191 Bay Road, and I'm here as a private citizen. I'm also a library trustee, and I'd just like to just make a comment about the parking in back of the library and that whole parking lot. I understand that when the mill buildings were set to be developed, that the entire parking lot was sold to the Newmarket Mills. And for some reason or other, I don't understand why only 20 spots were asked for as public parking. Almost every merchant who has help downtown has to park in those 20 spots. And for some reason, the Durham Book Exchange made an agreement to have 8 spots, and most of the time there's only 1 or 2 people parked there during the day. If the library were to run a program, we have nowhere for people to park, because now the mills are enforcing their parking. And if somebody parks there, they will be towed. I don't understand why we do not have a municipal parking lot in the downtown area and why we only have 20 spaces. And that's all I've got to say. I mean, I know there's not much you can do about it now, but I think it's something you really seriously need to consider before you start having any other businesses in the downtown. You have to do something about public parking. We don't have municipal parking. We have public parking that's owned by the mills. Not that I mean, and I spoke with Mr. Chinberg at the planning board meeting the other night because, you know, I just wanted to let him know. And he was open to having the merchants contact him and working out a deal where they could get a sticker or something. But in the end, you still need more public parking. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We should add parking rules, and that's going to be something that's going on. We need to have a conversation. Mr. Allen, 60 seconds.
Thanks. You're sweet. The price for other people who have septic systems, if you haven't looked at the price on them, is about $15,000. Had to look into that secondary on septic system. That would be leach and stone with 1,500-gallon tanks. It would cost you about $22,000 on a 2,500 to 3,500-gallon tank. And on the other problem you're having on parking, it's because your overall plan that was lost, that you were supposed to go one way in a circle around town, you would have had parking spaces all the way from just down the hill, all the way down past, going like this. You're supposed to have one-way traffic, not two-way traffic. That's why you cut your parking out. And go back to that plan with the state, you got filed with the state, and reach your traffic that way, and you'd have your parking.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you.
You want to say something? Hey, councilors, none of these buttons are working. This whole system's down, so if you want to say
Edge is the only
something.
one working.
Motion to adjourn.
Vice Chair Bentley.
Just a quick comment up amongst us today. I'll call him Mr. Chairman, I'll call him a lot of things, but our chair got his doctorate this week, and I wanted to congratulate him and tell him, we're not going to call him Dr. Phil. I'll call him Dr. Mazzaro. But anyway, congratulations, Phil.
Not Dr. Phil. Thank you very much. Any other public comment?
See the Facebook now.
Yeah, Facebook will be full of comments about that. Hilarious ones, I'm sure. So we will move on to public hearings for the actions that the town council is going to take this evening. There are four of them. First is Resolution 2012-13-25 relating to the purchase of new flooring at the library with funds to be transferred from the Library Capital Reserve Fund. Whereas the library seeks to replace carpet and tile within its building, and whereas the existing carpet and tile was installed in 1993 and has a general worn appearance, and whereas the Library Capital Reserve Fund has a current balance of $175,034 as of September 27th, 2012, and whereas the total cost of replacing the carpet and the tile is $30,915, now therefore be it resolved that the Newmarket Town Council does hereby approve the transfer from the Library Capital Reserve Fund for the purpose of purchasing a new library flooring at an amount of $30,915. First reading date, November 7th, 2012. Public hearing, December 5th, 2012. Final action of the council, December 5th, 2012. Public hearing will open at 7:35. Mr. Administrator.
Just some procedural items, since this is probably, I think, the first public hearing since the rules changed. You probably don't need to read them. You can read them by title only.
Oh, that'd be
since
great.
they've been read already into the record the first time. Second, this is the opportunity for the public to comment. Later on the agenda under old business is where it says second reading. That's where the council will deliberate and vote.
Okay.
So you don't vote at the public hearing level, you vote later on the agenda. So you just wanted to walk everybody through that portion.
Still public hearing on the library floor. Reference the library floor, Mr. Allen?
Yeah, since you seem to have a lot of issues tonight.
I do recall in the past that the library is under some stipulations on historic society. Which floors are you changing? You changing the old historic ones which can only be sanded down and refinished, or are you putting totally new floors in?
This is replacing where there's carpet?
What's underneath them, isn't that hardwood floors?
No.
Oh, because I know wherever the hardwood floors are in there historically aren't supposed to be changed. If I remember reading some vaguely somewhere.
Yeah, this Mr. Allen says, existing carpet and tile, if I may, was installed in 1993, so it's been there 20 years this year, and they're just replacing that.
It's just, you know, the old oak I was
Yep,
talking about,
yep.
as long as that's historic.
Just taking up this and putting it right back on top of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Any other comments on the library floor? If you feel like there's something to get across, I mean, does any counselor need to hear from the library trustees on this? No? But we do appreciate you showing up in support of your floor.
And will there be something that you need us for later?
Does any counselor, if you think you're going to have a question for the trustees, we should, Counselor Levy?
I just had one. I think you've already purchased it? So just as a side note, I thought maybe in the future we could, you could get the funding or come before us, I guess, before you buy it.
Yes.
And also, did you put on an RFP and get quotes?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we did. And I wanted to say up front that, that we didn't intentionally try to sidestep the process or the council's prerogative as far as CIP goes. It was the first big project that we have done in a long time, and we started it back when Julie Glover was still here, and we're really a good ways into it. And then she left, and all of her work was lost for a while, and so we just languished with it. And then the CIP committee was very anxious for me to start spending some of that money and taking care of some of these projects that we had been budgeting for. And we thought that the carpeting was the most important one, and you may have seen the pictures, and it's not just the pictures, but the carpeting had been there so long that it couldn't be cleaned properly, and it was really unhealthy for our young people, for everyone who was in the library, staff and children, and so we got the ball rolling, and it got just rolling and rolling. And certain places we put the cart before the horse, but it wasn't in any intentional way. We just missed the resolution by 12 hours the first time around, and I was not really even aware of that whole process. And so Stephen and Matt helped me with it, and they knew we had the money and that it was intended for that. So we proceeded, and it's not anything we will do again now that we're aware. When we start our next project, we will be crossing our I's and crossing our T's and dotting our I's. So that's, but we do. I have a whole timeline. If anyone wants to know, we followed the procurement procedure, which I got from planning office, and we did all of the steps that were required. And we were fortunate that we found someone who was willing to do the project, someone who had a good reputation, because no one wanted to move 45,000 books twice. And so we were lucky that we found somebody that was willing to undertake such a huge project, and we're very satisfied with the outcome.
Did I understand that you use carpet squares?
We did.
Good, so you have some extras in case you have to push-pull?
We did.
Good.
We used the carpet tiles of the same grade, that we would have used for regular carpet, and we have a whole stash of the same thing in the same dye lot, so if we should have problems, we can pull them up. And I'd like everyone to come down and see it. We're very pleased with it.
Sharon, it looks great.
Yes, doesn't it? Yeah, it really does.
It
Everyone
does. It makes
thinks
a big difference, a
it
lot.
does, yeah. And it's also much more healthy for our environment.
Thank you. Great. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Administrator, if we can just make sure all department heads know the process.
Absolutely. We are working on that, and
Servant leadership, it's incumbent upon us to make sure
Yes.
that they know. Any other public comments on the library flooring? We'll close public comment on library flooring at 7:41. We'll now have public comment on Resolution 2012-13-26, placing a question to the voters to establish a charter commission. We'll open public comment at 7:41. Any public comment on the Charter Commission?
Pointed subjects tonight, don't we? Charter Commission's a very good idea. I would back that 100%, and they might think along the line of adding, they can go a lot of other ways, not only the commission in a charter, you can add quite a lot of structure to the council's chair, a lot more power, right up to adding a mayor underneath that charter. It's a very good idea.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Any other comment on the Charter Commission? Seeing none, I will close public comment on that resolution at 7:42. Next is public comment on Newmarket Town Council Resolution 2012-13 relating to acquisition of Channel 13 web streaming equipment. Open public comment at 7:42. Any public comment? Any other public comment? No, seeing none, we will close it at 7:42. And the final public comment, Newmarket Town Council Resolution 2012-13-33, appropriation of funds from the Dam Capital Reserve Fund to Wright Pierce for engineering services associated with the McAllen Dam. Open public comment also at 7:42.
Those engineering plans on both keeping the dam and taking the dam down, I hope?
It is, yes. Correct?
Are they
Is
also,
taking it down even actually in here?
It's the structural integrity of the dam.
Structural integrity.
Not taking it down.
It's not taking it down, it's just the structural
and
integrity.
did anybody add in any on it did it ever make from the talks that, talk about people who live on the river, both bottom and top, of making an association like Barrington did with their dam? And the people who live on the water, both up and down, literally bought it from the town for $1 and added their own insurance policy and restored that dam? Has anybody, council, have any notes on that?
No one has contacted the
We're,
town
we're
on
we're
anything
still
on
in
that?
the very preliminary to figure out what needs to be done with the dam.
The town doesn't need to spend the money. The money could be accurately raised with enough people upriver and enough people downriver who want to keep that dam and keep their property values up, to have a form an association, which is a 5031C nonprofit, just like they did in Barrington. You have the blueprints with the Dam Commission, how to do that with Barrington's dam at Swains Lake.
If the abutters to the dam wanted to, there's freedom association, if they wanted to get together and associate in a way to negotiate that with the town, obviously we would have a conversation with them.
It would take everybody all the way, would be people who are up from the dam, down to the dam, and anybody that is affected by the water. In other words, a business that has to use the water to access it, the landing downtown, those are all the people who can join the association.
Again, if they want to associate, I have no desire to force any association, but if they are absolutely free to associate if they want. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment at 7:44. Now move on to item 4, which is acceptance of the town council minutes. The first of 3 would be the November 7th business meeting. I'll entertain a motion. Just go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Motion to approve the November 7th business meeting minutes as is.
Second.
Is Sean, is Councilor Levy out there? I think he ran to the latrine real quickly. I just want to make sure there's an opportunity before we vote on this to have a comment. Is there an issue with me shelving this before and moving on to the next items before? I just want to make sure that he has an opportunity to comment.
No, if you want to change the order, that's council prerogative.
Okay. Does anyone in the council have an issue with me moving the minute acceptance till Councilor Levy gets back?
No.
We'll move into the TA report. Mr. Administrator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have my written report for you. Just a few highlights on my own. Just that we are issued an RFP for trash recycling collections with the towns of Stratham and Newfields, as we have done in the past, to try to get the best rates for the community. They will be due. It was a preliminary pre-meeting today, and they'll be due later this month. At such time, we'll be bringing a contract. We'll be negotiating a contract and coming forward to the council to try to get the best deal. For your information. The second is I provided an update on the Sky Bridge. We will be having a planner come in at the January workshop to update the council on this issue. At that time, we can get into details and more in depth, so you can get your questions answered at that point. The next item is if the council does not object, I will be issuing an RFP for legal services pursuant to the town charter. It's the council that has authority to contract with a town attorney. We haven't issued a request for a proposal for a number of years. It's good to try to go out every so often to make sure we're getting the right rates. So I will be issuing that, but I'd also ask the council to consider serving on an interview panel with myself when the proposals are submitted. So I'll probably have that due sometime in January after the budget season is over, so we can focus on that. And finally, my written report is that just to make the council aware, Municipal Resources, Inc. has started their contract to serve as our town assessors. They are here 1 day a week on Tuesdays during regular business hours to answer questions of the public, and they will also schedule appointments if need be to meet after hours. And I just want to say on an unwritten report that I attended the Given Tree ceremony this past weekend. I know Councilors Carmichael and Nazar were there, as well as Governor-elect. It was just a great opportunity to be in the community, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. That's all I have tonight, Mr. Chair.
Questions for the administrator? Councilor Zink.
Is this the time to talk about the, any of the details of the legal RFP, or do you want to get that input later?
Yeah, if you want to provide me the written, if there's some written questions, that's probably better that way, so I can read it. I don't have that in front of me right now, so it's maybe better to do it that way. Submit it to me in writing, and then we can discuss.
Let me just mention
Yeah.
quickly, because I'll forget it. I did read the RFP, and
Yep.
I had a couple of questions. It talks about, you want from the legal counsel, for them to, candidates to be the legal counsel to identify other towns that they've worked with, and it makes all the sense in the world. My question is, legal entities that represent clients, as somebody that's brought an action against the town, are they candidates? And legal organizations that a public official may, a counselor, for example, that may be their counsel. Is that an issue? Those were the two questions.
I think what you would we would have to review. I mean, there could be firms out there that are a number of years old, that at some point in time may have sued the town or represented somebody who sued the town. We can ask that if they've ever had that and determine whether or not it's something recent. As for the other ones, if there's any firms that are out there that represent councilors or other officials, they would have to tell us that. And again, that would be the council's prerogative whether or not they would be excluded because of that.
Great.
So.
And then the last question was simply, I was just curious as to why labor was not included in the RFP.
Labor at this point, well, because we're in the middle of negotiations at this point, I want to make sure that we have continuity there. But if that's something else we could ask at the time.
I thought the RFP was very well done, but.
Any other, Councilor Levy, just so you know, we skipped the minutes so that you could have. I apologize. No worries. And we're on the TA report, so anyone else have questions for the administrator? Seeing none, we will go back to the item 4, acceptance of minutes. And there still is a motion on the table for the November 7th minutes to be accepted.
Was seconded.
And it was seconded. Any comments on the November 7th minutes? Seeing none, Mr. Administrator, the vote.
Council Wright?
Aye.
Council Levy?
Aye.
Council Zink, sorry.
Aye.
Council Carmichael?
Aye.
Council Bentley?
Aye.
Council Nazaro?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Oh, yeah, good point. So just so the public knows, Councilor Branch is excused for this evening. I should have said up front. Thank you, Vice Chair. Approval of the November 14th workshop minutes.
Make a motion to approve the November 14th workshop minutes as is.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Any edits? Seeing none, Mr. Administrator, the vote.
Council Wright?
Aye.
Council Levy?
Aye.
Council Zink?
Aye.
Council Carmichael?
Aye.
Council Bentley?
Aye.
Council Nazaro?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Approval of the non-public minutes from November 14th, 2012.
Motion to approve non-public minutes from November 14th, 2012.
Second.
Motion is second. Does anyone have discussion? Because if we have discussion, we have to bring in a non-public. Seeing none, Mr. Administrator, the vote.
Council Wright?
Aye.
Council Levy?
Aye.
Council Zink? Aye. Council Carmichael?
Aye.
Council Bentley?
Aye.
Council Nazaro?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Next item is old business. So, first item on old business is ordinances and resolutions in the second reading. Items for us to council on. These are the ones that we just had the public hearing on. Procedurally,
Yep.
do we read these now?
Nope. You can just read by title only.
All right. So I will entertain a motion on Resolution 2012-13-25, purchase of new flooring at the library with funds to be transferred from the Library Capital Reserve Fund.
Well, we need the actual number though, right? Money.
2012-13-25.
No, I meant the financial money, no?
No.
I can read it just like.
We can read it by title only.
Okay, motion to accept Resolution 2012-13-25, purchase of new flooring at the library with funds to be transferred from the Library Capital Reserve Fund.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, Mr. Administrator, the vote.
Counsel Wright?
Aye.
Counsel Levy?
Aye.
Counsel Zink?
Aye.
Counsel Carmichael?
Aye.
Counsel Bentley?
Aye.
Counsel Nazaro?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. I'll entertain a motion on 2012-13-26.
I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2012-13-26, placing a question to the voters to establish a charter commission.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion.
Just, are we going to go over all the nuances to this at some point?
If you would like me to, I could give you a brief discussion on what the process is.
I mean,
What the process is now is if the council has approved this charter question, it'll go on the ballot for town meeting in March. Within, I believe it's 60 days to 133 days after the certification of the ballot, a special election will have to be held. At that time, you'll elect 9 charter commissioners. Those charter commissioners would then have up to 170 days after the election to come up with a preliminary report on the charter. At that point in time, the Charter Commission is an independent body. Has nothing to do, the council has to provide funds for it, but it does not have to, it doesn't have any say over it. They review the document top to bottom. And after the 170 days, they come up with a preliminary report of some of their findings. After 230 days, they must present a final report. And at that point in time, it will go on the next municipal ballot for approval, but before that, it actually has to be approved by the Secretary of State, the Commissioner of the Department of Revenue Administration, and the Attorney General's office for any changes to make sure everything is legal. After that, any changes would be going to the voters next March. Or
So it's a 2-year process.
it's a 2-year process. There's an election but there's a number of elections in between. I discussed it with the clerk this evening. It's an estimate of about $1,000 for the election. We'd do it, we'd probably not use the machines, we'd count it by hand. So, but that would be the cost for the election. So, that is the process.
How are the first 9 people elected?
It's elected. Everybody, it would be filing as you were filing for any other municipal office. Seeing the recent charter commissions in other communities, it's usually a large turnout for people who are running. I think Manchester had 53 for 9 seats. I know Dover a few years ago had 36 for 9 seats. So it's usually a good turnout.
A large
This is charter.
turnout, a large number of
A
people.
large
vying
number of
for the
people
seats.
for vying for the seats.
But this is the charter of the whole town, not just the town council.
No, this is a whole town. You can open up anything.
So
with
some of the
this
things that
charter
came up
commission.
tonight, came up
Absolutely.
earlier would be apropos, okay.
This is the governing of the town. And when I say town, I mean the community of Newmarket.
I think it's a good idea, not necessarily because of anything stated tonight, but because there's been some inconsistencies in the past. And I don't know, is that what inspired some of your, you might want to, you have to do it now, but I mean, there have been some areas in the charter that have been inconsistent.
There are a number of inconsistencies in the charter. Coming on board, being the new town administrator, the first thing I do is read the duties and the authorities of the town administrator, and I saw some things that don't coincide with state law. So I want clarification there. And when I was looking at it, most charters actually have an automatic provision that every 10 years a question should come up to elect a charter commission. This one doesn't. So that would be one of the first things I'd probably suggest that you have in there. And there's just some, I talked with the town clerk as well, and there were some issues that she's found as well over the time that we need to address. And you hear the bigger questions that you heard this evening, that a charter commission that's independent should review it, and that's the people's prerogative.
That's right.
There will be a candidates night for these candidates, correct?
That would be, if this passes, I would assume there would be,
Okay, good.
so.
Vice Chair Bentley.
When you spoke about budget, other than the election itself, why else would there be a budget? 'Cause they would-
Legal review. Say if during the process, the commission has legal questions, they would have an attorney review some of their items. I've actually been involved in charter commissions as speakers. I've actually spoken to commissions. They have individuals come from around, experts in different areas to come in and speak. But they'd also have to have legal attorneys to explain what they can and can't do.
Thanks.
I think that would be a good thing.
Mr. Porter, I know you want to talk. There will be plenty of there'll be plenty, okay, go ahead, what's?
No, this charter thing you're talking about, can that be brought up about this, where you can probably get involved with the school thing?
That could be discussed
Changing
at
the
the
form of
Charter
government,
Commission, yes.
Well, that's why I want to.
Any other comments of the Charter Commission?
Would Steve have anything to do with that? With the setting it up, or how's that work?
Well, and that's the part of it, only if the commission itself asks me to, because they're an independent body. I have no more or less authority than anyone else. I would hope they would ask the town administrator to provide staffing, but that's up to them as an independent elected body. Most of the times they do.
Just playing it forward, so they come up with a plan, and then it gets voted on by the town, or changes, or whatever
Yep.
is done, and then it's law,
And it's law.
theoretically.
That would be the new charter and government of the town of Newmarket. And that's anything, you could go back to being a traditional town, or you can go the other side and become a city. So, I mean, it's everything. The government would be wide open for the people of this community to decide what they want to do.
Now, on this, excuse me, would there be, let's say they had 5 things they want to implement. Is it all pass, or one, how's that work?
That depends on the charter, the commission itself. You usually break it up into different areas. Since there's already a charter in place,
Right.
it would be different articles.
Okay, so articles then.
Versus if you were adopting the first charter, it would be one
One, okay.
charter.
I don't want to get too deep down the rabbit hole, but I mean, you could go down a way where you'd have a very disjointed form of government if one article passes and another doesn't, and
Well, that's why the state actually has to review it. New Hampshire is not while we are called a home rule state.
not a home
We're
rule
not a
state.
home rule state. We can only do the government that the state allows us to. So you would have to follow the outline that the state allows. That's why you have the Secretary of State, Attorney General, and Department of Revenue Administration review it before.
okay.
One would have to wonder why there's so many inconsistencies in some of the portions of the charter
Good
based
question.
on that.
Yeah.
Any comments
I
on the
think it's a
Charter?
good idea.
I find it somewhat hilarious that we can write a constitution for a country in like 2 months, but it's going to take 2 years to write a charter for a town.
Well, it's not easy taking the power away from the town administrator.
Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, Mr. Administrator, the vote.
Counsel Wright?
Aye.
Counsel Levy?
Aye.
Counsel Zink? Counsel Carmichael? Counsel Bentley?
Aye.
Counsel Nazaro?
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Next is vote on resolution 2012-13, acquisition of Channel 13 web streaming equipment. I'll entertain a motion. Doesn't always have to be the vice chair, ladies and gentlemen.
I make a motion to accept 2012-2013-28 acquisition of Channel 13 web streaming video equipment.
Second. Motion is second. Discussion.
I think it's a really good idea. That's my only
I
comment.
concur. I think it lets the public see more live events if they don't happen to be located in this chamber.
Yeah.
Seeing no other discussion, Mr. Administrator, the vote.
Counsel Wright?
Aye.
Counsel Levy?
Aye.
Counsel Zink?
Aye.
Counsel Carmichael?
Aye.
Counsel Bentley?
Aye.
Counsel Nazaro?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Next is resolution 2012-13, appropriation of funds from the Dam Capital Reserve Fund.
Make motion to adopt resolution 2012-13-33, appropriation of funds from the Dam Capital Reserve Fund to Wright Pierce for engineering services associated with the McAllen Dam.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion.
This isn't exactly to this, but if I could ask, with respect to the DM Capital Reserve Fund and the hiring of them, Somebody brought up to me, and I'm just going to ask, maybe Steve can get this on the website. Somebody asked about the dam removal study committee, the minutes being posted on the town website.
Okay.
And also, there's some discussion, maybe it could be taped or aired on Channel 13, because I've had more than a few people call me about, like, what's going on with it. So,
Okay.
sort of snuck it in there, because
Yeah.
it's...
Yep.
Close enough.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Administrator, vote.
Counsel Wright?
Aye.
Counsel Levy?
Aye.
Counsel Zink?
Aye.
Counsel Carmichael?
Aye.
Counsel Bentley?
Aye.
Counsel Nazaro?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Now, there is a resolution in here for voting in the agenda under old business second reading. Oh, we did have the reading on the school impact fees. But we did not have a public hearing.
No.
Because no public hearing is required for impact
Correct.
fees. I'll entertain a motion on 2012-1329, the transferring of school impact fees.
Resolution to adopt 2012-13-29, transferring $56,878 from the school impact fees to the school district for the purpose of buying out the modular building lease.
Second.
Motion and a second. I would ask for the discussion, Mr. Administrator, you start it, because we had asked you about the legal use of money for modulars for
Yes.
impact fees.
We can discuss this now or after?
No, we can
It's a
discuss that
discussion
now.
now.
This is you're right, Mr. Chair. The council asked me to receive some opinions on whether or not we could use that for modular facilities. I asked for an opinion, and this was following opinion from our own town council, which was kind of vague. I asked for opinions from DRA, the legal counsel at the local government center, Bruce Mayberry, who is the individual who wrote the town impact fee study. DRA stated that we should contact our attorney. So, punt. And the LGC stated that the answer depends on whether modular classrooms can be considered a capital improvement, and that the statute does not define what the capital improvement is in the situation. Also, it's generally accepted that the definition may be different in different communities in terms of what the threshold, the length of useful life, of the level of expense. So it's a judgment call of the council of what the community feels. Finally, Bruce Mayberry, the person who wrote the study, felt that the use of school impact fees to buy out a lease on a modular building would not be consistent. The purpose of the impact fee assessment is to provide for or recoup the cost of constructions or additions to permanent school facilities. The use of a modular is generally considered a temporary structure and evidence of a deficiency in a school system's capacity. The fees were predicated on bricks and mortar replacement cost assumptions. I've given the council all the opinions, so it's sort of it's a judgment call of the council whether or not it's the determination that the modulars are considered permanent, or is it a temporary fix?
Discussion. Council Zink.
DRA doesn't want to get involved, is that?
That's correct.
Yeah. Does DRA have any decision-making relative to impact fees as to whether they're valid or not?
No.
So it would simply be an opinion on that?
Right.
Okay, all right, that was my question, thanks.
Councilor Carmichael.
Where does the money go if we said no?
It stays in the fund. And if ultimately, at some point in time, the fees have to be returned to those who paid them. There is a lapse period. So that would be the ultimate thing. If it's not used for something else, it'd be returned to the people who pay the impact fees.
Councilor Levy.
You want to go?
No, very good.
You sure?
Yep.
So if we don't use these funds, I'm assuming the money's going to have to come from somewhere to either buy out the lease or whatever, right? Where's that money going to come from?
That's a school decision at that point. I know the school business administrator is here. She could answer the question on that. And
Could you, please? I would assume it would come from your CIP, but I'd rather hear it from you.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your question.
I would assume it would come from the school CIP, but I'd rather hear it.
The initial question, though, Gary, was...
I didn't get the initial question.
Oh, I'm sorry. If it isn't approved, because theoretically, if the use isn't allowable, where would the money come from?
we'd have to raise it in taxation, and we'd be putting the money back into our current budget that we proposed to the Budget Committee right now. We reduced it from the budget with the hopes that we'd pass it here tonight, and not raise taxation and use the impact fees. Because what would happen is, in 4 years, the lease payment, you would be paying the same amount of money that we're asking for you today. And I negotiated a buyout with Ski Ivy Leasing that if we were to make this purchase this month, that they would meet us halfway with the remaining payments for the current year, so we'd reap a savings for this current year, plus we would have ownership effectively immediately. Versus if we don't, then that $14,220, we'd be leasing that every year for however many years. There's nothing in the foreseeable future to do any type of permanent, if you will. I don't like to use that word because permanent is based on what you may perceive as being permanent versus what I may perceive. We had one of our modulars so far for 22 years. That to me is pretty permanent. Do we expect to have any expansion on the elementary school at this time? As you all know, not likely, because it's kind of taken the back burner with the junior senior high school. So we're hoping that we won't have to raise this money in taxation. We're hoping to reap the savings this year and to use the impact fees currently right now. We have to have the modular. That modular houses 2 fifth grade classrooms currently. So we don't have any choice. We have to keep it one way or the other. So.
Can I follow?
Go ahead.
Just a real quick follow-up. Just so I understand, why wouldn't that money be used from your capital improvement fund? Why would you have to add to the taxation? Why couldn't you use, you have a capital reserve fund, the school has a capital reserve fund for capital improvements, and I believe you have money in that fund. I'm just, for my own edification, why wouldn't the school, instead of raising this money via taxation, use that money out of the capital reserve fund?
We're keeping those funds for any current, if we have life safety, if we have any current problems that may arise with the current junior senior high school. And so we want to keep those reserves as high as possible and to use other sources such as these impact fees. Because there's only a 6-year, I'll call it life expectancy, if you will, with these. So, and this to me, when I looked at the town ordinance, the Newmarket impact fee ordinance, it does state that you can use it for expanding. Now, whether you must have bricks and mortar, that's open for discussion. I know 2 years ago, you purchased, in 2010, you purchased pads and nets and poles. Again, that could be, is that really permanent? I can guarantee you that a 22-year modular that we have owned is more permanent than netting for the recreation department. So it really depends, I guess, on the council and what they're going to consider permanent. I feel that this is a permanent solution. We've had one for 22 years. I can guarantee you we're probably going to have this one for at least 10 years, and in 4 years, you're going to have paid the same amount of money, whether I take it out of my capital reserves, whether I take it out of impact fees, or whether I take it out of my budget. It's just the funding source that we would prefer to use the impact fees.
Councilor Wright, then Vice Chair Bentley.
You know, you can call them modular, you can call them temporary, but it's a classroom. And I have no problem with this. You know, we can go back and forth, get all the type of input from different lawyers. No one wants to touch it. It's our discretion. It's a classroom.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Bentley.
I agree with Councilor Wright, and whether it's 22 years or 5 years, I call that pretty permanent, number one. Number two, the last thing I think this council wants to be a part of, and not that it was any of our cause, is giving back impact fees. That's deplorable that we had to do that this year. We have a chance to use them for something that I think we could make a very good case that it could be used for. I think we need to use them.
Councilor Carmichael.
I agree with Councilor Bentley. That's what I was going to say, the impact fees. They've got to go someplace, and might as well go back to the schools.
We can argue about the definition of permanent, but we had the superintendent here at the last meeting say that this is basically a permanent solution right now, the use of modulars. Councilor Levy, I see where you're coming from on the CIP, but at the end of the day, the only thing we have the authority to do is decide whether or not we're using impact fees. It'd be up to them as a school to make the determination as to whether it pulled out a CIP or not. So this is our opportunity to, or raise it through taxation. So I do support the impact fees. I think this is the right use of them. It's the right use for the taxpayers and to make sure that we maintain the facilities modular still for the students. I do take issue with the state, us not being a home rule state, but anytime we ask them for advice on anything, they tell us it's up to us. The only time they come back to us is when they have a problem with what we do.
I just would like to thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you very much. Any other comments on this? Councilor
I
Zach.
guess I'm going to be the lone wolf here. We've got an expert in impact fees that's saying it's absolutely inconsistent. We go down this road all the time, and when we get a decision from an expert that's inconsistent with what we want to do, and I want to use impact fees. I mean, there's no question I want to do it.
Yeah.
But I can see somebody 2 meetings from now raising their hands and saying, wait a minute, here we go again. So I would not support it, given the fact that we've got an expert who does this for a living that says it's inappropriate. We continually get advice from experts and ignore it. And I'd like to be able to support it, but I can't.
Understood, Councilor Zach. Any other discussion?
I just want to clarify my point, and I agree with Al. I'm going to support it, but I don't feel like it's completely legitimate. And I'm just going to, and it's not because I don't want to use the impact fees, that's why I'm going to vote for it. But it's pretty clear that impact fees in general aren't used for leasing of modular buildings. And he's pretty clear where he says it's considered a temporary measure as an evidence. Now, I can appreciate the fact that they may use it for 5 years or 10 years or 30 years, but I think it's a stretch as to the appropriateness. And my only concern is that we're opening ourselves up to a challenge. And we had the same issue come up with the golf course when they did the engineering. And the first salvo was, you can't do it. And then DRA whacked us, and then they reversed themselves because they realized that it was going to cause a tax burden a few weeks or a month ago. So, I have no problem using the impact fees. I would like to use them for something that would be more consistent with how I read the opinions we got. So, that being said, I will support it.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Being a devil's advocate, I'm reading the exact same thing, and it says modulars is generally considered a temporary. Generally is the key word here. And I think, we can go back and forth, but if he said the use of modulars is, change that general right there, but I just think he's giving us an opening right here, by using that one word. But we can go back back and forth all day on semantics.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Administrator, the vote.
Counselor Wright.
Aye.
Counselor Levy.
Aye.
Counselor Zink.
Aye.
Counselor Carmichael.
Aye.
Counselor Bentley.
Aye.
Counselor Nazaro.
Aye, motion passes 5-1. The next is Resolution 2012-13-27, fiscal year 13 budget transfers. Have we read this one yet?
You have.
Yes, this is the one where we were moving money from places where there were under expenditures, places where there were over expenditures.
That's correct.
In order to, this is something we've started recently with the new council rules to ensure that our bookkeeping is kept through our resolutions as opposed to happening on the books and no one in the public actually seeing the ordinance or the resolutions that allow it. So I will entertain a motion on 2012-13-27.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2012/213-27, fiscal year 2013 budget transfers.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Mr. Administrator.
Just to reiterate what you said, this is a housekeeping item that that the council should be voting on. Whenever there's a transfer from one item to the other, council needs to approve that and authorize that. So what we're doing is instead of showing overages, you're showing the actual expenditures in these lines.
Right.
So it's a good financial practice, and it lets the council be involved in those decisions as well.
So year after year, what we're going to actually see at the end of year budget is how much was spent on actual items, line items, as opposed to this one was actually 20,000 underspent, but it gave 20,000 somewhere else, so it looks like
Exactly.
it's totally spent.
Exactly. What you'll probably do towards the end of the fiscal year, this resolution will be a lot longer, just to get you ready, but
But
that's.
it's the right thing to do.
It's the right
for us
thing to do.
track
By
where
law,
the
it's the
money's
right
being
thing to
spent.
do.
It's the only way to do.
Right.
it, But I'm a little confused still with it.
Okay.
So, can you just explain, the first one said full-time salary was 11,009.
The anticipated over expenditure.
Yeah. And then it said Medicare was 13, and then Channel 13 miscellaneous equipment was 46.
That's correct.
So, so is that money being moved toward a salary?
No, the 11,920 will be going to the town administrator's full-time salary line. That
Okay.
that was what was negotiated between myself and the council,
Yeah.
which includes my base salary and goals. If I achieve certain goals, I get bonuses. The second is employee benefits for Medicare, 13,867. That was artificially reduced last year at the budget committee level. But you have to pay Medicare, so we have to transfer that in there. And the final one is a Channel 13 equipment purchase, which I'd actually have to look at the finance director to comment exactly what that is. But where we're getting it from is the health insurance line, as I mentioned to the budget committee and the council, was over budgeted. So there's enough room in there that we can transfer funds out of there to the other departments.
Okay, specifically for the Channel 13 miscellaneous equipment, under that line item also includes operating expenses for Channel 13, such as hosting copies of the meetings online. If we don't pay for that, all those copies will just vanish. So essentially, this is operating expense. Going forward, we're going to separate these operating expenses out of this line item so it's more easily identifiable.
There we go.
Okay, so I just, because it was a little, maybe it was me, but I was like, is Channel 13 paying part of your salary?
No.
And I was like, okay.
These are three separate lines that need
No,
to be
I
removed.
understand.
Need
but
more
the
money.
way it was aggregated, and then the salary amount for the town administrator, I kind of wasn't sure.
That's always a lightning rod.
Other discussion, Council Zink?
Yeah, I just think I think to have this reporting is just the way we should be running this place. So we can really see line by line transfers.
Absolutely.
And I think it's wonderful that you're doing it.
Any other comments?
Oh, just real quick, since you brought it up, you said there were part of potential bonuses,
Yes, correct.
which is what I'm all for. Was that part of this 11,920?
I believe to get up to that number, yes, that would be part of that as well. You haven't issued any.
Yeah.
But to make sure we have that money in that line item.
Okay.
Budgeted.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on the Medicare. You said the budget committee lowered that?
That was my
I was under the
understanding.
understanding the budget committee could only lower gross numbers. They couldn't go into line items and cut
But
them.
part of the budgeting process, that was what they recommended. And usually they go with what the recommendation was, so that was the number they reduced.
Okay.
Just for clarification, I don't believe that was this year's budget.
No.
It was last year.
Last year's budget
I don't
committee.
think it was last.
I just
I
wanna
think it was
make
last
sure.
year's.
Okay.
For the budget committee to reduce, I've been.
Medicare.
Yeah, that doesn't make, it sounds odd and arbitrary, but that was the notes that we have.
There was a footnote that said, no, no,
Yeah, I probably did.
just joking.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Administrator, the vote?
Counsel Wright?
Aye.
Counsel Levy?
Aye.
Counsel Zink?
Aye.
Counsel Carmichael?
Aye.
Counsel Bentley?
Aye.
Counsel Nazaro?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Next item is 7A, new business and correspondence. We have a opening on the cemetery committee.
Motion to nominate Victoria Brown for Cemetery Committee, term to expire March 2013.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion.
Is she here?
Hello, Victoria. Victoria, would you like to say anything on behalf of your nomination to the cemetery committee?
Come right up.
Come be on TV.
Yeah.
There are
TV.
literally dozens of people at home watching.
Here comes the bus to get run up.
You're over,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You're on.
you're overqualified.
We don't have to go to makeup before we come in here.
I don't really have very much to say on my behalf. I'm a recent resident of Newmarket. I really enjoy it here. I think it's beautiful. We live really close to the Riverside Cemetery, and my boyfriend and we really enjoy it. We go there just to be by the river, and so I'm hoping to help out the town and break into local government.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Councilor Carmichael.
You have a very nice resume there. You good education, good jobs. No, it's okay. Would your boyfriend like to come up?
To vouch for.
No, it's nice to have, when somebody applies, it's nice to see a face, you know? And thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Nice to see young people volunteer.
That's right. Any other comments, questions?
Nope.
Seeing none, Mr. Administrator, the vote.
Counselor Wright.
Aye.
Counselor Levy.
Aye.
Counselor Zink.
Aye.
Counselor Carmichael.
Aye.
Counselor Bentley.
Aye.
Counselor Nazaro.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and welcome to the circus.
Now, how would she be notified of the next meeting?
The clerk will have to swear her in, and then the cemetery trustees will send notice when they meet.
You bring warm brownies that night, in case you didn't know that. It's tradition here.
Next item is a application or appointment for a board, commission, or committee. Philip Page to the planning board. Oh, no.
No.
To the NCDC, excuse me. Planning board is his.
Make a motion to nominate Philip H. to NCDC, term to expire December 2015.
Second.
Motion second. Is there discussion? You all know Philip Page?
Mm-hmm.
He's not new to town government. He's seeing no other discussion, Mr. Administrator, the vote.
Counselor Wright.
Aye.
Counselor Levy.
Aye.
Counselor Zink.
Aye.
Counselor Carmichael.
Aye.
Counselor Bentley.
Aye.
Counselor Nazaro.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Page.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. LePage.
Yep.
Wherever you are. The next item is nomination to Coast. Mr. Fournier, Town Administrator, to the Coast, is it the board?
Board of Directors.
Board of Directors.
Make a motion to nominate Town Administrator Stephen Fournier to the Board of Directors for Coast.
Second.
Motion is second. This is, our former administrator was also on the Board of Coast, is just ensuring that we have representation on the board. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I attended my first meeting last week as an observer, so it makes sense to have somebody, definitely have somebody from the community there.
This isn't a way for you to get out of town, is it?
No. It's on my way in.
Was that one Wednesday a month, or?
Yeah.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, the vote. Mr. Administrator.
Counselor Wright.
Aye.
Counselor Levy.
Aye.
Counselor Zink.
Aye.
Counselor Carmichael.
Aye.
Counselor Bentley.
Aye.
Counselor Nazaro.
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Next item is ordinances and resolutions in the first reading, and we have
Ton.
a lot of them. So we can tag team on this
Tag
one
out,
if
yeah.
you want. So these will just be read. We will have, at the next business meeting, we'll have conversation about, discussion about this and public comments on it. Resolution 2012-13-35, authorizing the town administrator to enter into agreement with Wright Pierce for engineering services related to the replacement of water line at North Main Street. Whereas the Town of Newmarket Water Department solicited for bid proposals for engineering services for the replacement of the water line on North Main Street, and whereas 4 qualified firms submitted proposals, and whereas, after evaluating the proposals, the Water and Wastewater Superintendent recommends the proposal submitted by Wright Pierce of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Now therefore, let it be resolved that the Town Council does hereby approve the Town Administrator to enter into an agreement with Wright Pierce not to exceed $26,730 for engineering services for the North Main Street water line replacement. Given this day, the date is wrong, because this is the first reading.
Yeah.
So,
We'll get that in a minute.
I will say the 19th of December, year of our Lord, 2012. Do you want to read the second one, Vice Chair Bentley?
Town of Newmarket, New Hampshire, by the Newmarket Town Council, Resolution 2012-13-36, 2012/13-37, granting the interim finance director authority to undertake small claims action against Lamprey Airy 1934 FOE for recovery of unpaid rental of 57 Main Street from June 2010. Whereas Lamprey Airy number 1934 Fraternal Order of Eagles, Inc., of 245 South Main Street, Newmarket, New Hampshire, is a nonprofit corporation created under the laws of New Hampshire, and whereas the town of Newmarket rented space at 57 Main Street to Lamprey Airy 1934 FOE, and whereas Lamprey Airy 1934 FOE has not paid its June 2010 rent of $1,000, and whereas the town desires to collect this overdue invoice, and whereas the New Hampshire Small Claims Court requires a resolution from the town council supporting a small claims action for recovery of said cost. Now, therefore, it be resolved, the town council hereby authorizes the interim finance director, misspelling interim, finance director to bring a small claims action and any associated costs that may be added thereto against Lamprey Airy 1934 FOE for its unpaid invoice totaling $1,000, giving at the town council chambers, Newmarket, New Hampshire, this 5th day of December in the year of our Lord 2012.
I'll read the 19th.
We'll read the 19th, correct. And there's a lot of backup information in all these. Could you make sure when we have the discussion, the
You have it as
backup
well.
information is also in the packets?
Yep.
Because sometimes we just get the resolution.
Absolutely.
Resolution 2012-13-38, granting the interim finance director authority to undertake small claims action against Scott Hogan Esquire for a recovery of unpaid right-to-know copying and preparation fees. Whereas Scott Hogan Esquire of 27 Riverside Farm Drive, Lee, New Hampshire, is an attorney licensed to practice in the state of New Hampshire, and whereas the town of Newmarket provided documentation to Scott Hogan Esquire under a right-to-know request, and whereas the town of Newmarket has a policy to issue invoices to right-to-know requestors for compiling and copying documentation, and whereas the town of Newmarket invoiced Scott Hogan Esquire for services performed, and whereas Scott Hogan Esquire has not paid his invoice totaling $100 that was due on May 28th, 2010, and whereas the town desires to collect this overdue invoice, and whereas the New Hampshire Small Claims Court requires a resolution from the town council supporting a small claims action for recovery of said costs, now therefore be it resolved, the town council hereby authorizes the interim finance director to bring a small claims action and any associated costs that may be added thereto against Scott Hogan Esquire for his unpaid invoice totaling $100. Probably have an added date to that too.
Yep.
It's missing this one. Vice Chair Bentley, I think you should read this one. It's your old committee. You've been asking for it for a year.
Town of Newmarket, New Hampshire, by the Newmarket Town Council, Resolution 2012/13-39, dissolve the Energy Committee. Whereas the Town Council formed an Energy Committee in 2007 to review energy-saving options for the town, and whereas the committee has achieved a number of objectives it set for itself, now therefore let it be resolved that the Newmarket Town Council does hereby dissolve the Energy Committee, given at the Town Council Chambers, Newmarket, New Hampshire, this 5th day of December in the year of our Lord 2012.
Again, I should say 19th.
Yep.
Mr. Administrator, the next one's on the Veterans Memorial Trust Committee. I'm the vice chair of that committee. Would I have to recuse myself from any conversation on this?
Nope, you have no pecuniary interest above anybody else in this discussion.
That is true. In that case, Resolution 2012-13-40, Veterans Memorial Trust Committee withdrawal of $7,350 from the Capital Reserve Fund for engineering services for construction of the Veterans Memorial. Whereas the Veterans Memorial Trust Committee has been working on constructing a new Veterans Memorial, and whereas the Veterans Memorial Trust Committee has entered into an agreement with the Newmarket Board of Library Trustees to construct a memorial on their property, and whereas the Veterans Memorial Trust Committee has solicited bids for engineering work associated with the construction of said memorial, and whereas MJS Engineering of Newmarket, New Hampshire came in with the lowest bid of $7,350 for the services, now therefore be it resolved that the Newmarket Town Council by the Newmarket Town Council that it authorizes the town administrator to enter an agreement with MJS Engineering to provide engineering services not to exceed $7,350 for the construction of the Veterans Memorial, and further let it be resolved that the Newmarket Town Council hereby authorizes an amount not to exceed $7,350 to be withdrawn from the Veterans Memorial Trust Engineering Capital Reserve Fund. First reading date, December 5th, 2012. Vice Chair Bentley.
Well, next one's holidays.
Are we going to read all these holidays?
You don't need to. I would just ask that you approve the next two.
So you want a motion and?
Yeah. Because if
Approve
not,
the next two?
yeah, because if
It's
just
our town council meetings and the holidays. I will entertain a motion to approve the town holidays for 2013, which line up directly with federal holidays, except for the day after Thanksgiving and the day after Christmas.
It actually aligns with our personnel policy, which in the future, I do not believe you'd have to approve this since the personnel policy already outlines that. So,
why are you approving it now?
I just thought of that when I was reading. It was on the agenda. The administrative assistant puts that forward.
Okay.
So.
So we don't need to vote.
We don't have to approve it.
No. The town council meeting dates you do, though.
Not bad holidays, though. The town does all right.
Say again, Oliver?
I said the town does okay for holidays.
Yes, they have a robust holiday schedule.
So the meetings, you want?
I will entertain a motion for the town council meeting schedule for 2013.
Make a motion to accept the town council meeting schedule for 2013 as written.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion? This is just in line with our first and third Wednesdays, with the addition of the organizational meeting.
That's correct.
Immediately following the election in March. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Administrator, the vote.
Counsel Wright?
Aye.
Counsel Levy?
Aye.
Counsel Zink?
Aye.
Counsel Carmichael?
Aye.
Counsel Bentley?
Aye.
Counsel Nazaro?
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. You have correspondences
There are
and
none.
comments, but there are none in here.
Right. There are none, it's just on the agenda.
Given that, closing comments from counselors. Counselors, anything old or new business you'd like to bring up? Seeing none, our next scheduled meeting is our workshop for December 19th in the chambers. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, stand by.
Voting this year, just looking at business meetings here, we have the orientation on the 18th of March, and on the 20th, we have a meeting. Is that when we install new officers, if there's any, or?
The 18th would be when you elect a new chair and swear in the new officials. Because the town election's on the 12th.
The 12th?
Yep.
Okay.
Council second.
Old business. We've talked about the school and the town moderators getting together to discuss the conduct of the deliberative session. A, has it happened? And B, I think that as it's happening, there should be some input from the council and the school board as to how they would like to organize it, rather than just letting the moderators make that decision.
I've reached out to the moderators, well, and I hate to put it this way, it's up to the moderators to govern town meeting. So they would have to invite the council to discuss it with them by law. I don't think they wouldn't, but the other thing is, I was in discussions with one of my colleagues that recently have done the same thing, and they're going to be sending me information about, they ran into some problems with DRA on combining the two meetings, and they're going to send me information on how they got around it. So, but I have reached out to the moderator to set up that discussion.
And I will say this, that the moderators and I already had set up a discussion.
Yeah.
And it was, along with the chair of the school board, and it was set for the last 2 weeks ago during the budget committee meeting that we wanted to be at. So, because we had the budget committee, we postponed that meeting, and the new date eludes me, but it's, I believe, the third week of December, the first Monday of the third week of December. So,
Does DRA have an opinion on DRA's
Opinion.
Opinions? I don't know about this.
they'll say,
I
do
know,
what you want
I
unless
know.
we don't like what you do.
I know. Trust me, it's frustrating for us as well.
Councilor Levy.
I actually forgot. We had our budget meeting this week. I should just very briefly. We discussed CIP, police, planning, the town clerk, tax collector, recreation could not make it. The town administrator discussed his role and finance and the budget for those. And other than that, it went pretty smoothly. And I think next week, we have DPW, recreation, and a plethora of others. And then one other quick question I had is, are we going to have an economic development committee meeting next week, or what's the plan?
Well, I've got to send it out to the committee because there's some scheduling issues.
Yeah, well, so what I was going to say is, because I think the last one I saw is Phil might have a
Yeah.
scheduling issue. So in the event, just as a thought, it's not imperative, but if it would be nice if the first meeting, everybody could be there and, you know.
That's what I was thinking.
Somebody wasn't running down the hallway trying to catch a bus or
Yep.
catch a plane, and you're coming out from the West Coast. So in the event, my humble request would be if we can have it next week. I think most of the people could, but unfortunately, you got a conflict. Maybe we could do it right after the first, you know, maybe
Yep.
in the first couple of weeks of January, because it gets very contracted for a lot of people, particularly in my business and everything, in
Yep.
the last 2 weeks.
Holiday season too. I mean, doing the
Yeah,
last week.
it's very
before
tough.
Christmas is tough, yeah.
So is that, if,
That's what I'll
Can you let
recommend.
us
I was
know
going to
if-
recommend.
If we move it from, I mean, if the options are the week before Christmas or
Yeah.
the first week or second week of January, there's not a lot of work that's going to happen in those 2 weeks.
No.
We're not losing a lot of.
No,
like,
we're
that's
not.
why I
Yep.
thought it might be good to have everybody there.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Levy. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll return to the comment that our next meeting is the workshop of December 19th. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Stand adjourned 8:37. Thank you very much, Councilor.